My name is Jake Schmidt. I'm the International Climate Policy Director at the Natural Resources Defense Council, which is an international environmental organization with about 1.3 million members and e-activists with offices throughout the U.S., one in China, and we work a number of issues throughout the world. I was going to just talk to you very quickly about what's happening in terms of the U.S. on the regulatory front. Obviously, following from the failure to pass the climate bill, the onus has been on the Obama administration to follow through with the tools that it has. And it has a number of tools that it can do to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The first thing that the Obama administration can do and has started to do is to pass very aggressive standards for how much greenhouse gas pollution can come out of cars and trucks and heavy-duty trucks. And they began that from the minute that they started office, with a set of standards through 2017 vehicles that were very aggressive and have just recently finalized a rule to extend that standard through 2025 to the point that cars in 2025 will be about twice the level of efficiency of a current model vehicle in the United States. Similarly, we have heavy-duty standards for the big trucks, so semis and postal vehicles and those kinds of big trucks that are very aggressive and the first in the world, I believe, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The next thing that the Obama administration has been moving forward on is a set of appliance efficiency standards that were legally required to be implemented, but that the Bush administration had not followed through. And so they've sort of begun to clean the slate so that we have new standards for air conditioners, for refrigerators, beginning with standards for TVs and some of the set-top boxes that go with cable television in the United States. And the last thing that the Obama administration has been moving forward on is a set of standards for both new and existing facilities for the biggest stationary sources, beginning with power plants. And they are committed to and legally bound to set these standards, beginning with standards for power plants, which would cover the greenhouse gas emissions for both new and existing standards, existing plants. And we are under a legal decree with them to finalize those standards, hopefully next year. We're still in negotiation about the exact deadline. They've proposed a draft for existing or for new facilities, which we'll see hopefully early next year. That we think will be a very aggressive standard, or we hope will be a very aggressive standard, and we're still waiting to see what it will be for existing facilities. We're also expecting standards for oil refineries, and then they're legally required to set standards for all major sources of pollution over a series of years. The other thing that's obviously happening in the U.S., because we're not just a federal government that makes decisions about actions on a variety of fronts, but we have a very positive movement in terms of California, which has set a cap and trade program and has finalized the rules, which will take it to cover the major sources of emissions in California, roughly similar to the sectors that are covered in the European program and in the Australian program, so the big stationary sources of pollution. And California also has one of the more aggressive renewable standards in the world. They have a standard to go to 33% renewables by around 2020, which is very significant for a state that already has made major investments in renewables. And so they're moving forward with that, and that's driving a lot of innovation. Similarly, across the United States, over 20 states now have what are called renewable portfolio standards, which set a minimum amount of renewables that can be in the electricity mix in that state, and that's having a huge impact in terms of driving the investment in wind turbines and solar panels and so forth. And so we've seen a huge take-up of those technologies in the United States. Obviously, all countries are also watching what is happening outside the United States. In that front, it's been, I think, very positive that Australia has moved forward in the context of its domestic legislation position to put a firm price on the carbon pollution coming from its major sources, and those kinds of steps don't go unnoticed and clearly isolate the countries that are not moving forward. So that's, I think, a very welcome development, and we wait to see how those rules sort of evolve over time and hope that those systems continue to be enforced and implemented and stuck to. The last thing I wanted to just end with was just to give you a sense of what's happening throughout the world, because I think that's an important dynamic. We've seen just huge progress in terms of the deployment of renewable energy throughout the world, to the point that renewables grew once again to 30% last year. We had a 30% increase in the amount of energy investment or investments in renewable energy, and that's a very significant take-up. And we're seeing that dynamic play out in places like China and India and Brazil and Mexico. And so what we're seeing on the ground is a very positive sign of the willingness and the commitment to move forward. Obviously, we need to do more. We're not on a path to solve this challenge, and so it's critical that we take these steps that have emerged and go deeper, and that's both in the US and Australia and China and India and so forth. And so we obviously want to try to solve those challenges across the board. So thank you very much.